I haven't seen him.
Top 10% for football.
Oh, that's great. I think that's where we've been. Anyway, but a lot of that credit goes to Chris Breen, who's our academic guy. He does a great job with all that stuff. We're very fortunate to have him.
What you mentioned Chris before? Could you give us a sense of like what he's done that's helped with your guys?
Well, I think he's developed a relationship with our players, and I think that they can see that he's sincere and that he cares about them, and that he's trying to help them. And so when you get that kind of respect, and not just Chris, I mean there's the tutors, the academic coaches, all those people I think do a nice job, and our guys have done a nice job with school. We try to make sure they go to class and do what they're supposed to do, but you have to give them the credit. I mean, they're the guys who are going to school and doing it.
Can you talk a little bit about the new NCAA rules with the Twitter and the unlimited text messaging? Kind of your thoughts on it?
I think the other sports have been doing it for a long time. I don't know why it took so long, really. I can't see why anybody would be against that rule, because a lot of times you get texts from people you don't even know. You're afraid to text them back, afraid it's a recruit, afraid it's whatever. So I think it's a good rule. And when people say, well, at least on Twitter you had to follow you or whatever, I mean, the last time I looked at my phone, there's a block function if I wanted to block a number, so it's not that hard.
What's the status of Christian Philpott? Has he made any strides in getting back?
You know what? He's had a rough spring. He hadn't been out there. He got out there for about 14 or 15 periods, and then he kind of tweaked it again. So he's missed pretty much the whole spring. It's been disappointing for him, I know, and we wanted to really have a chance to evaluate him. So it's been tough on him this spring.
So he's down probably for the rest of.
I don't think he'll be back the rest of the spring.
Can you talk a little bit about the offensive line, just kind of what it looks like as of today?
It's just a work in progress. I mean, we're sliding some guys around. That's what spring practice is about. You move some guys. We got Will Brown playing guard now, and I think that's a good move for us. He's looked good the last couple of days. So we moved Andy Marshall back to center. So right now you got Eason and Will on the left side, and Andy at center. And today it was Brad Morgan and Trey Glock. That right guard thing has been kind of interchangeable. I think we're going to move Stick back out to tackle, and we moved Scott Morgan to offensive line, so he'll be in there. You got Shamir that can compete at guard. The big problem right now, the big thing is trying to find some guards, and I think Andrew's natural position is center, and then we'll get Freddie back in the fall at center.
I imagine it's got to be pleasing.
Chris Griffin's hurt, so he's out. I mean, he's another guy we were counting on to play guard. So it's like anything, you try to mix and match and piece it together.
I imagine it has to be pleasing to have enough defensive tackles in your program and coming in to be able to sacrifice one of those guys and move them over.
Well, at this point, I mean, right now we had 7 scholarship offensive linemen because, who could have seen we lost Gary Brown came in at the end of the semester and decided he was going to go draw cartoons in San Francisco, and then Jay Whitley has had some head problems or whatever. I'm not sure that what his status is going to be, but he hasn't played at all. Chris Griffin hasn't been able to bounce back. Shamir's working on his weight issues. So I mean, in the spring you lose 4 scholarship guys at one position. That's pretty big.
With Shamir, are you kind of at the point where it's kind of he has to do something? Or
Shamir, I mean, we'll see if he can work. Certainly, Shamir's got ability, but he can't play at 380 pounds. So, we're trying to do everything we can to help him, but he's got to help himself too.
This spring is the first time you've had a chance to maybe take a look at Brad Morgan. What have you seen from him?
I think he's willing. He's physical. He's just got to get some reps and play. But he's willing, he's not afraid. He'll stick his face in there, that's for sure.
Is Scott Morgan a permanent move? Or
yes.
Mm-hmm. And you said Jay Willie was having like concussions? Or?
He just hadn't practiced. He said he was having headaches, yeah.
With Desmond, have you guys kind of figured out what his role is? Is he going to be a flex guy if you're on the defensive line? Branch, Desmond?
No, he's playing defensive end.
Oh, okay.
We have Quay Cersei and Quan Marshall coming in. Those guys, Quay's coming off the injury. Quan showed you some stuff last year, taking some snaps.
Well, I think Quay's had a good spring. I mean, he had a really good practice on Monday, past scale and catching the ball. I think he's starting to get back healthy. So we're counting on him to be a big part of what we do in the fall. So hopefully he can continue to progress. And I'm excited about Taquan. I think quarterback's a good fit for him. He seems to enjoy playing there, and he's already made more big plays and long runs than we've had there in a long time. So I think that's a good fit. I kind of felt like that when we recruited him, that's where he needed to be. I talked to him about it during recruiting, and when Matthew got hurt a little bit, that was a great chance to put him in there. And I don't see moving him back out now. I think that's his spot.
We've seen sort of two sides of Justin Thomas, the first year or 2 years ago, and then last year. What has been your message to him, either to get him back on that track or find the balance sort of in between those last 2 years?
Well, I think that just try to work on being consistent. I think he'd be the first to tell you he didn't play as well last year. Hopefully he's healthy, more healthy than he's been. And he's just got to get back to playing with a little bit of the reckless abandon that he played with, and use his abilities, because he's got a ton of abilities. And Monday was a really good practice for him. He was really sharp throwing the ball, but he's got to continue. I mean, he's got to take that and build on it every day. And sometimes I think it's hard when you're in no contact to play hard, but you got to learn to do that. Because we're not going to knock him around. We want him to be healthy, but he's got to learn to play full speed and play 100 miles an hour when he's in goal. Sometimes that's hard to do. And the guys around him got to help him some. He can't do it all on his own.
Taquan, where does he need to keep getting better?
I think just experience. I mean, he's got a good arm. Watch him throw the ball. He's got good quickness. I think just fundamentals and learning the position. Most of what he did in high school was probably in the gun, and now he's on the center. And, I think just play. I mean, he's got ability. He's just got to get some reps and figure it out and play. Certainly got a strong enough arm. Watching him throw the ball, he can throw the ball. That'd be the thing that we worried about to start with, but I don't see that as a problem.